Let's pick it up. Daniel chapter 5, verse 18. This is what Daniel says to King Belshazzar. O king, the Most High God granted sovereignty, grandeur, glory, and majesty to Nebuchadnezzar your father. Because of the grandeur which he bestowed on him, all the peoples, nations, and men of every language feared and trembled before him. Whomever he wished, he killed, and whomever he wished, he spared alive, and whomever he wished, he elevated, and whomever he wished, he humbled. Wow. Power of the king. Amazing. Verse 20. But his heart was lifted up, and his spirit became so proud that he behaved arrogantly. He was disposed from his royal throne, and his glory was taken away from him. He was also driven away from mankind, and his heart was made like that of beasts, and his dwelling place was with the wild donkeys. He was given grass to eat like cattle, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven until he recognized that the Most High God is ruler over the realm of mankind and that he sets it over whomever he wishes. Look at the next verse, verse 22. Yet you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, even though you knew all this. Let's stop right there. First of all, Belshazzar was not the son of Nebuchadnezzar. They just didn't have a word in the Aramaic for grandfather or great-grandfather, but he is a descendant from Nebuchadnezzar. So that's why they refer to his father. But look at what Daniel says. He says, you knew all this. He recounts the entire story of Daniel chapter 4. That's what Daniel recounts. That because of the pride of Nebuchadnezzar, because of his pride, the boaster becomes a beast. See how it says his heart was turned into that of a beast? His heart referring to his mind, his reasoning. And he wasn't in the right frame of mind, and now he is a beast. You see, we have to be very careful. Pride is so deceptive, and sin is so deceptive. This story would have been proclaimed and spread and repeated multiple times throughout the history of Babylon. Once Nebuchadnezzar was raised back up, his reason returned to him, he proclaims to everybody his humility. This story would have caught fire in the sense that people would have been talking about it for years to come. And Daniel recounts right here in this particular chapter, he says, yet you, his son, O Belshazzar, you knew all this. Okay, it's like they didn't have something that could spread like rapid fire, like social media today or Twitter. They didn't have that, but it was such a significant story for the king to be humbled and cast down and to be acting like a beast. That story would have been repeated and known throughout all the land. And so even though this happens, they would have known that King Nebuchadnezzar was cast down because he lifted himself up in pride. He looked to his strength, his might, his power, as if he were self-sufficient and independent from God. And God said, no, 7 times are going to have to pass over to you until what? You recognize that the Most High is ruler over the realm of mankind and bestows it over whomever he wishes. That theme is repeated right here in Daniel chapter 5. So that's the 4th time we see that theme. All right, yet Belshazzar, you knew all of this. This is the deceptiveness of sin. He knew this. I have to pause here and just let this sink in. Belshazzar knew this story. It's not as if he didn't know it. It's not as if he was like, whoa, I've never heard of this before. See, that's why when God judges the wicked, they will know for certain what they've done and why they've defied him without uncertain terms. No one's going to come to the Lord and say, Lord, why? If someone would have told me, if someone would have made this known to me. No, that's not going to be the case. They will know all this just like Belshazzar knows all of this. That's why, and look what it says in verse 22. Let's go back to this. Verse 22, yet you, his son Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, even though you knew all this. Verse 23, but you have exalted yourself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your nobles and your wives and your concubines have been drinking wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see, hear, or understand, but the God in whose hand are your life breath, and all your ways you have not glorified. Verse 24, then the hand was sent from him, and the inscription was written out. You see, it's not only that Belshazzar doesn't humble himself. He knows this whole story, but he exalts himself against the God of the Most High. And he takes those sacred vessels. He takes those sacred vessels that, yes, King Nebuchadnezzar took, but King Nebuchadnezzar never defiled them, and he defiles them in a drunken festival. And he doesn't even recognize God. He worships and praises gods, little g, that can't even see or hear or speak or do anything. That's what he does. And so, if we keep moving on, Daniel 5, verse 25. Now, this is the inscription that was written out. Many, many tekel aparsin. That basically means numbered, weighed, divided. That's essentially what it means. Numbered, weighed, divided. Verse 26. This is the interpretation of the message. Many, God has numbered your kingdom and put it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found deficient. Perez, your kingdom has been divided and given over to the Medes and Persians. There it is. Fulfillment from the head of gold Babylon, but another kingdom inferior to you will arise, and this is Medo-Persia. This is the inscription. Look what happens in verse 29. As soon as Daniel reads the inscription, then Belshazzar gave orders, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a necklace of gold around his neck and issued a proclamation concerning him that he now had authority as the third ruler in the kingdom. That same night, Belshazzar the Chaldean king was slain, so Darius the Mede received the kingdom at about the age of 62.